Imagine a storm so fierce it seems the heavens themselves are weeping, and then picture the unthinkable, a lion, majestic and drenched, calmly walking into a bustling hospital carrying a tiny, fragile bundle in its jaws. What happens next will leave you questioning everything you know about loyalty, love, and the unbreakable bond between species. The storm raged violently outside, drenching the streets in a relentless downpour. The hospital's neon sign flickered in the deluge, casting eerie reflections across the wet pavement. Inside, the staff bustled about, oblivious to the extraordinary event about to unfold. The nurse on duty, exhausted and sipping lukewarm coffee, barely registered the soft chime of the automatic doors. She glanced up, expecting a routine late-night visitor, and froze. There, standing in the doorway, was a lion. Its massive frame and golden mane, slick with rain, glistened under the fluorescent lights. The hospital lobby fell silent as every eye turned toward the impossible sight. This wasn't a wild, roaring beast. It exuded calm, its amber eyes scanning the room with an almost human intelligence. In its jaws, it carried a carefully wrapped bundle. Time seemed to stand still as the lion stepped forward, its claws clicking softly against the tiled floor. Whispers of disbelief rippled through the staff. Security guards hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. The nurse's heart pounded as she instinctively stepped forward. Despite the impossibility of the scene, a strange sense of trust washed over her. The lion gently lowered the bundle onto the floor and stepped back, sitting on its haunches as if waiting for something, or someone. With trembling hands, the nurse knelt and reached for the bundle. Carefully peeling back the soaked cloth, she gasped. Inside was a newborn baby, pale and fragile, its tiny chest rising and falling weakly. The infant let out a faint cry, its lips a troubling shade of blue. Tears welled in her eyes as her training took over. She shouted for a pediatric team, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. Doctors and nurses rushed in, an incubator in tow. As the team worked swiftly to stabilize the baby, the nurse glanced back at the lion. It hadn't moved. Its watchful gaze followed her every motion, its calm demeanor unshaken by the chaos around it. She couldn't shake the feeling that the lion understood the gravity of the situation. As the baby was whisked away to the neonatal unit, the chief physician arrived, his expression a mix of disbelief and concern. The nurse quickly explained what had happened, her voice trembling. "It just walked in," she said. "It brought the baby." It knew something was wrong. The doctor glanced at the lion, then at the doors it had entered through. "This doesn't make sense," he murmured. But before they could act, the lion stood, turned, and padded silently back toward the exit. It paused at the door, casting one last look over its shoulder before vanishing into the storm. The nurse stood there, her heart racing. She had more questions than answers. Where had the lion come from? Why had it brought the baby here? And how could it display such precise care and understanding? The mystery deepened when a nurse from the neonatal unit hurried over, clutching a small object found in the baby's blanket. It was a tarnished gold locket with an inscription, "For Anna, protect him no matter the cost." Inside was a faded photograph of a woman cradling a newborn, her eyes filled with love. The nurse's thoughts raced. Who was Anna? Was she the baby's mother? And how was the lion connected to all of this? The storm outside continued to rage, but inside, a sense of awe and wonder began to take hold. Hours later, as the baby's condition stabilized, a commotion erupted at the hospital's entrance. A man, drenched and frantic, had arrived, clutching a photograph. He claimed he was looking for his son. The nurse's heart sank as she recognized the faces in the picture, the same woman and baby from the locket, now joined by the man. His eyes were filled with desperation as he recounted his story. "My wife," he said, his voice breaking, "she passed away 3 days ago. Our car went off the road during the storm. I went for help, but when I came back, the baby was gone. I thought I'd lost him too." The nurse's breath caught. "Your wife's name was Anna?" she asked. The man nodded, tears streaming down his face. He pulled out a matching locket. "She said it would protect him," he whispered. "She always believed in things I couldn't understand." The nurse hesitated, unsure how to explain. Finally, she said, "Your baby is here, safe and alive. But there's something you need to know. A lion brought him to us." The man's expression flickered between disbelief and astonishment. "A lion?" She nodded. "It walked in, carrying your son in a blanket. It didn't harm anyone. It just left him here and disappeared." The man's face paled. "Anna grew up near a wildlife sanctuary," he said slowly. "There was a lion there she cared for as a child. She always said he was special, almost human. Before she passed, she told me that if anything happened to us, the lion would know. I thought she was delirious, but now..." His voice trailed off as he broke down in tears. The nurse placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Your wife's love and that lion's instinct saved your son," she said softly. Back in the neonatal unit, the man stood by the incubator, tears streaming down his face as he gazed at his child. The baby stirred, its tiny hand reaching out as if sensing its father's presence. "He looks just like her," the man whispered. The nurse watched the reunion, her heart full. But even as relief and joy filled the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that the night's events were part of something much larger. The next morning, as the storm gave way to sunlight, the nurse found herself drawn to the hospital entrance. She stepped outside, the air fresh and calm. Her eyes scanned the street, and then she saw it, the lion, standing just beyond the parking lot. Its amber eyes met hers one last time, filled with an unspoken understanding. With a low rumble, it turned and disappeared into the trees. She stood there for a long time, clutching the locket in her hand. The world was still full of questions, but one thing was certain: love and loyalty transcend understanding, and on that stormy night, a lion had proven it.